So now let's talk about the NDAA, which is winding its way right now through the chambers. So,
It's
this is a
slithering through the
must.
chambers, if you will.
Slithering is a good way to put it. This is a must-pass bill, and we see this played out every year where they try to add amendments, that they can't, get through other ways, unless, of course, it helps workers. Then we don't add that at all, right?
Well,
So,
let me slightly kind of like add to something you just said, because when we say it's a must pass bill, people know what that means, but in reality, it's because they jam it down our throats that it's a must pass bill. It's a bill where it's just another, for instance, where we've just commonly accepted. I mean, yeah, there's stuff in there that just sort of keeps the government open, but it's this grossly overinflated giveaway to the military,
yeah.
which it has nothing to do with keeping us safe. Nobody's trying to attack the frickin' United States, all right? It has nothing to do with any of that. It has everything to do with padding the pockets of rich contractors and military executives. Smedley Butler wrote the book a long frickin' time ago. They've given Biden, we're going to get into it, they gave him billions more than what he even asked for, which, by the way, they did the same
45 million.
thing.
They gave him 45 million more, yeah.
45 million. They did the same thing with Trump. They did the same thing with Obama. I mean, this happens all the time because this is who's really running this place, the military industrial complex. It's a total scam, and this is how an empire behaves. They're going to also tell you we can't possibly afford the healthcare system the rest of the industrialized world has. We can't possibly afford other things that would make the quality of life for Americans so much better. Educational opportunities, free college, living wages. We can't possibly afford any of that. The closest thing we have to a jobs program is our military. But these are must-pass things that have these bloated military budgets for endless war, where we're setting the Middle East on fire for special interest oil and to pad the pockets of military contractors. It's a total scam. We're an empire. We're going to fall the same way all other empires fell.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
the military spending bill is, to clarify, is 45 million more than Biden asked for, and it is an 8% increase from 2022. So once again, we're seeing an 8% increase. Yeah, every year this goes up. I every time this comes around, I think back to Eisenhower in the last speech he gave before he left as president, where he warned about the increase of the military industrial complex and how that would ultimately take control over Congress and our government and dictate things that should probably not happen. So yeah, massive spending bill. But what's become par for the course along with it is the addition of amendments to get them passed through, that normally cannot stand on their own, right? So I want to go through a list
they're so shitty.
Yeah,
They're
because
so shitty.
Or Ron, the opposite is true. Or they could be adding, for example, the $15 minimum wage increase, but they choose not to do that, or they don't, go to the mat for it when they do. So it's very frustrating. All right, so the first one I want to bring up is the what some are referring to as a protection act for Ginny Thomas, right? So can you pull up that tweet from Jane Meyer from the New York Times, who might be on strike later? We'll talk about.
We're going to be talking about that strike.
So we might not get an update on this. So lawmakers have just added a provision to the National Defense Authorization Act protecting Supreme Court spouses from having to reveal any outside employer in the name of security. If it passes, Jeannie Thomas's professional entanglements would effectively be state secrets. So then update, this will most surely pass with carve-outs for media and opinion reporting on matters of public concern, but it still adds new layers of secrecy around justices, judges, and their spouses, and much more. Sponsors say it won't stifle the press. I hope they're right. No, of course it will stifle the press. That's why it's there. So I want to pull up on this topic. There is a group called Fix the Court that has been sort of lobbying against this. And they put out a press release. Hang on. This is back in 2020, November 12th. So this bill has been kind of floating around for a while, right? The idea therein, I should say. Mm-hmm. All right. So the bill would make reporting on judicial malfeasance impossible. In attempting to protect judges and justices' privacy, the bill threatens First Amendment protected speech. Sections 3 and 4 are so broadly drawn that if the bill passes, it would preclude certain reporting on potential bad actors in the judiciary. For example, publishing information that a judge or justice was gifted a vacation property by a person seeking judicial favor would make an organization liable under the bill. The same is true for an organization that reported on a judge receiving a car as a bribe. Troublingly, the bill's text would also penalize reporting about potential judicial favoritism of certain law firms and businesses that employ a judge's relatives. A clear violation of ethics that the public has a right to know about. Under this bill, reporting the employer of a judge's immediate family member would open a reporter or a watchdog organization to civil liability for alerting the public. I mean, this is obviously a very dangerous infringement on First Amendment rights. And of course, the reason they use is that it's a security precaution, right? Because protesters have showed up at judges' homes. A judge was shot, 3 years ago almost. So they're saying there's a security issue here, and they're trying to curtail it this way. But there can very well be a security issue. I'm not going to dispute that, but this is not how you handle it at all. Of
course not, because this isn't really about security. This is about
ethics.
It's about ethics, and it's about them wanting to get away with more shady things. They'll be like, oh, this is our spouse's deal or whatever. It has nothing to do. That's why this bill has been floating around like a crusty turd circling a toilet bowl, because it's absolutely freaking ridiculous, and it cracks down on journalists, and they're going to try to push it through. And, this is how they do things. And by the way, they always lean on security. How did they shove the Patriot Act down people's throats? Oh, it's for the security of this nation. How do they get away with things like facial recognition and stuff like that? Stuff that does nothing to actually make people safer. They do it in the name of frickin' security. And look, security is a thing. I'm not denying that. You're not denying that. However,
but so are ethics, right?
And so are ethics, and it's also weaponized to be totally misleading, and that's what is happening here. This has nothing to do with the security of judges in their homes. This has everything to do with their ability to get away with corruption and to make other people shut up when it happens.
That's right. So Fix the Court also put out a press release this month. Can we pull the PDF of that up on screen, Colin? It's called Recent Ethical Lapses by Supreme Court Justices. This particular document is just focusing on SCOTUS, not the entire world of the judiciary. So, but it's interesting to look at these because I think people need to know about this, right? So Chief Justice John Roberts failed to recuse in 14972 ABB Inc. et al. Arizona Board of Regents, despite owning shares in Texas Instrument stock, a party on the ABB side. Initially failed to recuse in Merritt's case, despite owning shares in Thermo Fisher Scientific, which owns Life Technologies, did recuse after the error was brought to his attention after the oral arguments. Okay, so he got called out on it, and he went away. Look at how large the Justice Clarence Thomas section is.
Look at all that.
This
is the stuff they don't want you to hear about.
I'm not going to go through all this. Obviously, we'd be here all day. But, accepted private plane rides and gifts, including a Bible once owned by Frederick Douglass, valued at $19,000 from financier Harlan Crow.
I for sure would have sold that Bible.
Crow.
Are you kidding? If someone gave me a Bible, they're like, this is worth 19 grand. I'm like, cool, I'm selling it today. I personally believe, because I'm not a religious person, I'm an atheist, I don't think I should have religious relics like that unless it has meaning to me. So I feel like it's almost bad karma for me to have something like a Bible. But it's not bad karma for me to sell it if it's worth $19,000.
No, $19,000.
I will do. I'll donate some of it. Don't get me wrong. So I'll be like, hey, I got a really nice $19,000 gift here for free. This is nice, but yeah, I'm selling that freaking thing.
So Crow also donated $500,000 to help Jeannie Thomas establish Liberty Consulting, a platform she used to lobby against laws like Obamacare that went before the court, gave $175,000 to a library in Savannah to name a wing after Thomas, and raised millions to build a museum in Thomas's hometown of Pinpoint, Georgia, multiple years. Along with Justices Alito and Scalia, was a target and participant in a project dubbed Operation Higher Court, a faith-based interest group's attempt to influence the court by feeding justices with meals and entertainment, praying with them in small groups in the court building and via its parent organization, filing amicus briefs in several merits cases, Anyway, you can go down the list. Attended a Koch Industries-backed retreat in Palm Springs, California, at a time in which the Koch brothers were bankrolling several litigants with cases before the Supreme Court. So anyway, you guys get the idea here. If you want to go through and read that whole list, it's available on fixthecourt.com. So yeah, basically, as far as I'm concerned, this particular situation is much more of an ethics transparency situation. This absolutely should not be part of the NDAA, but as we stated earlier, stuff that can't seem to make it through on its own gets attached to these must approve bills and gets forced through, unless of course it's the $15 minimum wage.
Yeah. Right. Here I thought Liberty Consulting was just the name of the worst dating app ever, but it turns out it's freaking way worse. It's way worse. All those things you just described sounds like the worst events ever that one could. They attended a thing with the Koch brothers in Palm Springs. I'm like, that sounds like freaking torture. There was no catering that could make me want to go to that thing. No catering around that could make me be like, yeah, I'll suck it up.
Right.
That sounds horrible.
All right. So another thing that has been attached, pull up, please, the Moulton Statement on Removal of Special Immigrant Visa Provisions from NDAA. So previously, they were giving special immigrant visa status to Afghans that were coming to the country for a million reasons. That's now been removed. So this is the Seth Moulton's statement on this. Washington, D.C. Congressman Seth Moulton, Democrat from Massachusetts, issued the following statement in response to many provisions related to the Special Immigrant Visa Program being stripped from the National Defense Authorization Act. Special immigrant visas are available to individuals who have worked as translators, interpreters, or other professionals employed by or on behalf of the United States government in Afghanistan or Iraq. The Senate negotiated NDAA fails our Afghan allies on many levels. By removing a provision to extend the Special Immigrant Visa Program, as well as my bipartisan provision that would offer better protection to our wounded Afghan allies, we are sending the message that we actually don't keep our promises. Other important provisions have also been removed that serve to further undermine the program. For decades to come, our young troops will be asked, why should we trust you, when they ask our allies for help, etc. So 2 things here. First thing is that I think a lot of what's motivating this is just anti-immigration. A lot of the pushback against this visa program had come from people that are, kind of touting white nationalist principles in a soft shoe way, right? So this is about not letting brown-skinned immigrants into the country. And secondly, whether you feel good about the war or not, whether you're anti-war or not, I think the fact of the matter is that these individuals did, help the United States a lot when they chose to do what they do. And if they stay in the situation there in Afghanistan, it's a very dangerous one for them. So this idea that we promised them that they could come to this country if they, did the things that they did, I think that is a promise that should be kept.
Yeah, I mean, but we're always, we always screw over immigrants as hard as we freaking possibly can, and It's because we have this gross nationalistic attitude that we're some beacon on the hill, which we're not, by the way. Most of the people who come here, they do so out of desperation. The people who come here, they do so because they're climate refugees, largely because of policies that we implement.
Currently,
or they
I would
come
say,
here,
yeah, a lot of it is, yeah.
Or they're victims of our foreign policy elsewhere. And we pretty much have a net zero immigration between us and Mexico right now. There's actually a lot of people going the other way. That's why the wall wasn't to keep Mexico out, folks. It was to keep us in. Let's be honest. It was to frickin' keep us in, because people are going down there now for medical tourism, dental tourism, and to live. And
That's
to
the thing.
live.
Yeah.
Follow some people on Twitter who, when shit started getting really bad here, they went across the border to the south. Ask them how their lives are going now. They're a lot freaking happier. And they got to see a specialist for a reasonable price. They got to go to the dentist for free.
Yeah. So not all of it was bad. Not all of it was bad. We talked about the dirty deal from Manchin earlier this week, and that was actually a win. It was removed. So let's pull up. Yeah, let's pull up the Progressive Caucus's statement on this, their tweet. Following a vote of membership with more than 2/3 of members in favor, the CPC adopted the following formal position tonight. The Congressional Progressive Caucus opposes the inclusion of Senator Manchin's permitting reform proposal, the FY23 NDAA. So that is a win, I think. That is a good win.
That's a huge win. That's a huge win. And since we're on wins, if I could, I'd like to mention the other win. This was the other big win. The JCPA is out of the bill. Now the biggest fan of the JCPA is Chuck Schumer. So hopefully that there's no shenanigans up any sleeves. Yeah. He's a big tech guy. I mean, it's just like, even though some people in big tech actually oppose this, that's how bad it is.
Didn't Klobuchar flip sides on that one? Was she one of the original sponsors? Am I wrong on that?
Yes, she was. I don't know if she later detracted from it or not. I mean, this is one, it's so bad that there are some like normal people who would be for this, where even they kind of came out and were like, no, this is not good.